Hi everyone, this is Viraj. I've been with Amazon for 5+ years. I am a coach on Mentor Me Good platform. I have mentored 10 plus candidates on this platform plus 50 more during my career. What I'm excited about is ability where we can connect with many of you. We can share our knowledge, understanding, and we can help you land your dream job in the tech industry. That's the mission that we're working for at Mentor Me Good. Um, to introduce Vipin, some of you probably know him. He's coming to our platform for a second time. He had another session last month, first 90 days as a product manager. A pretty interesting session. I liked it. Had some interesting stories. So hopefully today we'll also hear interesting stories from Vipin. He's going to talk about why UX is the key to make or break your product. Vipin is a seasoned Amazonian, and I would expect more fun and learning in this session. I would hand it over to Vipin, and then at the end of session we can do Q&A. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat window, and we will take up one question at a time in the last 15 minutes. So I think with this, I would hand it over to Vipin. Vipin, all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Viraj. Yeah, it has been, a quite interesting session last time, and that was, I would say, the motivation to go ahead with another session. I love the audience as well, like, the kind of questions they were coming with. So hope to have this engaging session again. So first thing is like why this topic, we'll go into detail about it, like why UX is important for our product manager. Like we, as a product manager, as we discussed last time, we work from the product strategy to the launch to the post-launch adoption of the products, and then measuring the success, etc. So where this UX fit in, why it's important for a product manager to understand the UX for a product. So we will dive deep into it. So before we get into that, so let me have a quick intro once again for those who are joining for the first time. So I started my career as a software developer with Bharat Electronics Limited. They have a central research lab, two central research labs, one in Bangalore and another one in Ghaziabad. So I was part of the Ghaziabad team working on the defense software for Indian Coast Guard, Indian Navy, and many more. So pretty similar to a software developer in IT organization, like working on the development part, then launch, deployment, and then post-launch helping customers in adoption of the features, whatever you are building. I worked there for close to 7.5 years, then decided to go for MBA. So I joined IIM Calcutta in 2015, a PGPX program. That is their 1-year full-time program. So that was like 2015 to 2016. I focused on the courses around product management. So we had a course on product management, or something that is strategy, or the marketing, data analytics is something that is really going to help a product manager in their career. So I opted for that. Along with that, you have the HR part or the people management related courses, and finance as well. From the campus, I got an opportunity to work with Sasken Technologies Limited. So I was there as a portfolio manager for close to 3 years. So portfolio manager is pretty similar to a product manager in a product company. Only thing is, when you work on a product, you might be working on the end-to-end piecemeal. Here we were building more of a POCs, taking it to the customers and helping customer launching in the different markets. So that was for close to 3 years. Worked on the devices space, Android-based devices, and then later part moved into the IoT. From that IoT experience, I joined OpenText in 2019 as a product manager, and then graduated to lead product manager. I was a product manager for their IoT platform. So OpenText is a B2B Canadian software company in information management. They acquired a company, Covisint, in US, that was an IoT company, and they were integrating their products into the main products of OpenText. So it was quite exciting work there. Like, you are working on a new technology, you are defining some use cases, and then taking those use cases to your existing customers, integrating with your existing products. 2020, I got an opportunity with Amazon. So last year I joined Amazon as a senior product manager, started with a finance operations team, and currently I am part of a customer service technology team in the capacity planning, real-time workforce optimization part. So this is kind of my journey from a defense scientist to a product manager. So pretty much you can divide into two parts: pre-MBA, post-MBA. And pre-MBA, it was more of a software development side, and post-MBA into product management. Moving next, the agenda. So there are 6-7 bullet items, but if you ask me to define it, it's like two parts to it. One is the theory behind the UX part. That is like why UX is important, what is the role of a PM and a UX designer, what is the differences, what are the overlappings, how UX is different from a UI. Then using the design thinking innovation framework in the UX, then we will go through some live examples. We'll talk about the takeaways and some tools like what can be used in the UX building. So first thing first, like why UX is important for a PM. So presenting some data points here. So I have added all the references to the numbers in the reference slide. So you can go and do your own research. So as per surveys in the US and North American market, 88% of the online shoppers, they say that if they will not return to a website if they had a bad user experience. So what is a bad user experience? Like I went to any shopping site, I try to search something, I'm navigating through the product, and I'm not finding that endpoint. When I say endpoint, it's like this is a journey. You go to a website, you start searching a product, you add to a cart, you go and you do the payment part, you select the address, you select the delivery slots, and then you complete your transaction. And the users say that if there are glitches in this journey, so most of the users, they don't prefer that. You can do it once or twice, but if you're like, kind of like getting that kind of user experience more than once or twice, you just don't prefer again using those websites because it takes a lot of time. So you are juggling around between multiple things. So we'll talk about all these things in the later part of the presentation. Second point is like 90% of the users stopped using an app due to poor performance. So poor performance due to UX and latency. Like if your website is not having a clear-cut user path to buy or whatever the purpose of that website is, maybe a fitness website where you want to go and want to watch some fitness videos, you want to interact with a coach there. So all these things are part of your app. And if there is a bad experience there, or it's take too much of time in loading, that may be because of the poor front end or maybe poor back end design. But at the end of the day, you just don't prefer getting into those kind of app again. Negative brand experience takes like it affects the purchasing power or purchasing mindset. So as of now, we are moving from the websites to the app side more. We are buying more on the mobile through the apps. So you just say that if they have a bad experience on mobile, so they don't go and change the website as well. And first impressions are 90%, 94% is the design related. So bad user experience is something that lead to most of the problems in the website. So from a product manager point of view, so if you look at these data points, you will realize that why it's important. As a product manager, my responsibility or anyone's responsibility is to make any product successful. And that product may have, like, say, the UX designer and the other teams working, but their responsibility is just to work on the UX. For a product manager, success is how many users are there. So you have the monthly average users, you have the daily average users, weekly, what is the churn rate, what is the revenue you are getting out of it, how many users are dropping from one page to another page. These are the matrices what as a product manager you go and you review, and let's say there are some issues, you try to fix them. So if that journey is not complete, if there are gaps, as a product manager, you will suffer to make that product successful. And that's the reason as a product manager, you need to understand the nitty-gritties of UX. I would not suggest like, you become a UX designer, but you need to have at least at par knowledge with the UX designer, if not exceeding. The reason is the tools, what UX designer is using something they can, but is this completing the user journey or not, or it's completing the user experience. So that is something what you have to understand, what you have to work with the UX designer to make things happening for your product. So moving next, so this is a classic Venn diagram for a product manager. So a product manager is sitting between a UX, tech, and business. So you are working with the business teams to getting the requirements, understanding what the need of the requirement, how it's going to impact the customer, getting into understanding the customer more about it, working with the tech team for creating those user stories, creating the epics, and getting it delivered. There's a part that is equally important is the UX. You work with a UX designer. UX design is there. From the UX design, the user journeys are getting created. From user journeys, how the UI looking like. Then the complete understanding of these three things, UX, tech, and business, makes a product manager successful in any organization. And that's the reason a product manager need to understand business, tech, and UX as well. So if you go to most of the pages where they are talking about the career of a PM, they will say that you need to understand tech, you need to understand business. But at most of them, or the many of them, UX is ignored. But I would say that UX is equally important for your success as a product manager in any organization. Then there's a role or responsibilities of UX. So you must see that there are not very clear defined boundaries between these two. So as a product manager, you do the data analytics, you go and you try to empathize with the customer, you do the customer discovery, you create roadmap, etc. That is part of your strategic planning. But from the UX perspective, what you are going to do, you are working on the user research, you are defining the use cases, then you are taking it to a UX designer. UX designer will help you in refining those use cases, in refining the user. So he will go and he will create a user journey that will be a joint effort between a product manager and a UX designer. He will get into a sketching, might be using some tools like Balsamiq, and then creating mockups. Then you work with UX again, like defining those mockups. When you are like kind of satisfied with the work done, then you take it to the other stakeholders. Other stakeholders will be like tech. Tech would be from the feasibility perspective, whatever you are planning, can it be supported from the backend or not? That kind of data is available or not? If not available, then if they need to get what all efforts they would be required. Once you have alignment with the UX and your tech team, then you take it to the business for the end user feedback. There may be other way as well, like you start engaging with the user as well in the parallel. So those are not like the sequential activities, but it's more parallel activities. So when you are closing in, you have closed on the customer requirements, you have closed from the tech side, and your UX design is complete. So that is the difference. So UX designer, sometimes what happens, so UX guy, he will also start discovering the customers and start writing the user stories or maybe that user journey map. So there are, then you are working in silos with the UX guys. So you need to define those responsibilities clearly. That is one, and you have to break the boundaries. Like it's not that I will work on X only and you work on the Y. There will be a lot of collaborative effort, because the smart UX guys, they will question the product managers left, right, and that helps understanding user more. So the purpose of those conversation is understanding the user more, empathizing with the user, getting the real pain points of the user rather than whatever the pain points you have assumed. So breaking those assumptions, so that collaboration will help you in breaking the assumptions and getting the real pain points. We'll talk about the pain points in the subsequent slides, like how we will go about it. Then there is a big, I would say, the confusion between UX and UI. So there are two separate things. That is one we have to understand. So you have the left brain, you have the right side of the brain, right? One is the creative, another one is the process focused. So UX is creating interactive design, wireframes, understanding the user, doing that persona analysis, creating the information architecture, creating different kind of scenarios, like how a user will be behaving or working in different kind of scenarios. You go to a website, let's say the Amazon.com or maybe Flipkart.com. As a user, you want to search something, you go and you search and type. There's a search bar, you can search there, or maybe you go to that category. From category, let's say you want to buy a fashion item, you want to buy a t-shirt, you go to man t-shirt, a round neck t-shirt. So there may be categories. So this whole journey part is something that is part of your UX. But how that button looks like, what fonts it's visible in. How this t-shirt, you have those like, models wearing the t-shirts on the left side, you can zoom in. So what is the size of that and how it's looking like, that is part of your UI, the layouts, the graphics design, the fonts, the typography, and how that appealing that website is. That is part of your UI. But how a user interacts with the website is your UX. So your information architect is nothing like, you have different categories in Flipkart. We will go through that later point of time. Like you click on the categories, you will see that grocery, then computer. So that how your information flow looks like from one place to another place. If user want to navigate, how it would be, that is more of your information architect, where the subheading would be sitting in and how can customer navigate from one to another. So that is a pretty much difference between the UX design and UI design. And please understand, these are two separate things. Making some nicey fancy buttons is not equivalent to the UX design. The reason is UX design purpose itself is different. The purpose is to give a better experience in purchase. UI is more appealing design so that user is feeling good when his or she is looking at your website. So that is the difference between these two. Then we'll go and discuss about the design thinking framework. So there are different frameworks to go and understand the customers, and I found that design thinking is really a great framework to understand your customers. So in the design thinking framework, if you go, there are 5 things. So you go empathize with the customer, then you define the requirements, then you ideate the solution, do the prototyping, test it, do it quickly, then get the user feedback and do the iteration again. Your emphasis here is that you have to understand you are innovating your product around the human-centered, like explore human context and define the challenges. What happens as a product manager, or sometimes many of the product managers, they are coming from the tech background, they see that a technology can improve the customer experience, and that's pretty true. But what happens in some cases, as a product manager, you try to ignore the customer or the human-centric approach. You try to think from the tech-centric approach, and that's the biggest challenge in this case, right? Because end of the day, if you are building a product that is not used by someone, or that is not usable in some aspect, so it's of no use whatever the tech you are using. So emphasize with the customer, understand the customer challenges, try to put yourself in the customer's shoe and see that what pain points of customers you are going to solve through your product. So understanding those, defining the challenges in the current approach. So I have a template, we will go through that, user journey one. And you define those challenges, understand the pain points, then get into the second stage, that is define, observe, research, understand, and create a point of view. Whatever. So one is you created a kind of challenges list and how a user would be interacting with your product. Then you define what should be the behavior, what should be the right behavior of product. You do the research around that and create a point of view. Then you go and work on the solution part. That's ideation phase. There may be good ideas, there may be bad, but you have to think big here in the ideation phase. So all scenarios you need to consider and brainstorm around that for this particular problem, whatever you have done in the define phase, how you would be solving that. So in this phase, you will be working to create, like in the define phase, you have created some persona scenarios. In ideation, you are working to solve the problem for whatever you have defined. Then you go and you do the prototyping. Prototyping can be like you build some mockups, you do the wireframing, some style guide, take it back to the customer. That is my testing part, get the feedback, and then further improvise. UX is not like, you have created one thing and then that's final, right? It takes iterations to understand the user behavior. So do it quickly, then get back again to the user, take the user feedback, And these 5 boxes, those are not linearly connected. Like in every phase, from testing, you are giving feedback to the ideation, and the prototyping, from prototyping, you are giving feedback in the define phase. So all these are interrelated to each other. You may have, from based on the prototyping, you may have to give some feedback to the empathize phase, like your underlying assumption about the problem itself is not correct. So that is something you need to do as a product manager, and do it with your all stakeholders, focusing or keeping your customer in mind all the time. So first and second part, like define and emphasize through the user journey. So you discover the pain points, you discover the opportunities, and understand. You have to understand the user's emotions, or the like how customer is feeling when he or she is using your website or your app, and what is the pain point there. And you have to solve for the pain points. You are not going to solve something like, no, I'm doing some hunky-dory stuff, and that's like there, and customer is not bothered about that. You may add those values, but if customer is not bothered about that, then it's of no use. Encourage a customer-centric mindset. So in Amazon, we say the customer obsession. In most of the organization, there is something for the customer. So always keep your customer in mind. Create a single vision for product. Everyone is aligned, and you are going to work on that part. Last one is like marketing your product. Marketing is nothing. It's like socializing your product with a multiple stakeholders, with your customers. Take their feedback early on. This is one of the template I've used many a times. So to create a journey map, like you define a persona, you define a scenario, then how much is the interaction of that persona, different phases, current phase, what are the resources, how they do it currently, what is the mood of the customer, then what are the frustrations, you list down those, what are the possible solutions, what are the opportunities to improve. Then in the second phase, in the third phase, so we will go through an example that I have taken from the website, but this is the kind of template as a product manager, what we use while we are creating a user journey map. In the phase part, like I talked about the journey, you go and you log into a website, you search a t-shirt, you go and you buy it, you do the payment, and then you select the address. So all these things are part of my user journey. So, and this is one of the example what I took it from the web. It's pretty similar to what how is my template looking like the stages of journey. This is the Linda journey map. So Linda got information from a friend that government gives some grant. So Linda goes and log in. He's like thankful to his friend or her friend. Then logins to Google, search on the Google. Frustration happens. Like initially she's happy, feels motivated. Okay, I am going to get some money, hopeful. But when she's not able to search on Google, she's kind of confused. But through some keywords, grant.go, she is able to find the website. She clicks, but she sees that I don't know where to find the information. Then again, she go and read through the government benefits. She's kind of then optimistic, I will get the grant, but she's not. Later she realized that she's not getting the grant, so hopeless. She didn't know how to contact, go and log in and then fill the contact us page. You're getting and waiting for an email. So that is a journey for Linda, like interacting with a government website for grants. Similarly, we create this kind of user journeys for our customers, like how they will be interacting, what are the challenges they have in the current scenarios, and how we can solve those issues. So like this potential opportunity, like simple benefits, we can have a contact page. We can make the benefits finder like TurboTax page. You can add the question answer here, merge grant, different websites, because government has multiple websites and those are pretty similar kind of stuff. So can we have a unified experience for end user? Different APIs to then integrate benefits with the unclaimed money search. So these are some of the potential opportunities what you will identify through a journey map. See, in the previous session, I talked about my experiences, but these journey maps, whatever we create in Amazon or in any other company, those are pretty confidential stuff. So I can't share those, and that's the reason to pick this example. But the work we do is pretty similar to this one. So you can go through it maybe at a later point of time and understand, like, while creating a user experience, what are the different stages you have to identify, what are the different activities a persona is doing, how the persona is feeling, the mood of the persona. Then what are the gaps you see and what are the potential opportunities for improvement. These potential opportunities will give you to take you to the potential solutions. And once you have the solution, you will go and you create mockups and take it back to the customers. For creating mockup, I have used Balsamiq very exhaustively, and this is one of the case I did for one company at some point of time during my college. So I wanted to create a customized itinerary planner, and I pitched this idea to Cleartrip at that point of time. So, and you would not believe it, Balsamiq is such an easy tool to work on. I created everything in, I think, 1 or 2 days, because we had 3 days deadlines to submit. So creating complete, case with the mockups was there. So firstly, I created like the itinerary planner, how homepage would be looking like. Then I integrated my hotel booking page, then car rentals you have there. You have the places to visit. You select everything in one go, and you have the you can select the different kind of notifications, how you want to get alert, and then how my mobile notification would be looking like. So this is what you do in the prototyping. So you work with the UX guy, and majorly the UX guys will create the prototype. But if let's say you don't have a UX designer in your team, you can create at your own and you can take it to your stakeholders, that is your business or customers or tech team. Then there are different methods to test the UX. So moderated, unmoderated. Unmoderated is like if you look at the any kind of experience, so you have the qualitative measure, you have the quantitative measure. So unmoderated is for your quantitative measurement. You launch a web page or app or something, give it to testing to the users in an uncontrolled environment. When I say uncontrolled, it's like anyone can use at their own. You are not there to help them define anything. You are not helping them navigating. And what you are doing here, your purpose is understanding the different matrices. Like at what point of time customer is using what feature, where they are dropping off. So you are trying to get that quantitative data. Where the moderated user testing is a controlled environment, maybe through a lab, or where you have the users, you are helping them navigate, trying to understand their behavior. You are questioning them in between, taking the notes. So you are trying to understand the behavioral part of a user. So one is quantitative, second is the behavioral one. We do in a different circumstances, like I want to get more about the usability when the users are spread across different geographies and I can't do the testing in a controlled environment, we'll go with the unmoderated testing. Where moderated is, I know that my user set, if I'm not able to, let's say if I'm able to onboard 1% of the total users kind of thing, I get them into a lab and do this kind of testing. And those are the pros and cons, like, based on your goal, you define like which one you want to take at what point of time. Second one is card sorting. This is more majorly for the information architecture we talked about, like how your menu page would be looking like from menu page, how the customer want to see the next one. So you have different cards. So take your one page as a one card and you juggle around, take the customer feedback into that and try to create that information architecture. So information architecture is one is like, you have defined a user journey. From user journey, you have already created. Second is for testing, you take it to the user, take user feedback through card sorting. Third way of testing is the user surveys. You can create a questionnaire, send it to the users. Maybe, and you can do the sessions recording, like send that link to multiple users and record how they navigated from one place to another place, one page to another page, and see the behavior. This part, again, user surveys and session recording is to understand the user behavior. Then we have the A/B testing. A/B testing is, again, let's say you have an existing page and you have make some changes into that page. So you go and you give like you have two pages now. One is the old page and you have the new page. For half of the customer, you give old page. For half of the customer, you give a new page. That may be the one scenario. Second, maybe let's say in the existing page or in the new page, you have confusion, like, how this thing should work. So you give half to, like, you 50% to different set of users and try to take the feedback through the matrices. Idea here is to see that how my customer is using the new approach. So you try to create, try to get the user feedback for that new change what you have made to your app or the web, or you have added any button or anything. So that is the way to get the feedback from the customer. Then we have the availability and accessibility is my how the information is available and accessible to the end user. And the last two are like aesthetics and brand consistency. So different companies or different brands, they try to create a unique thing for themselves. Like when I was working with OpenText, even their website, it's like blue and black. All the fonts are standard. You go to Flipkart, you will see the one page, the second page, you will see the similarities. Those are not kind of uh, you will see that those are pretty similar, not heterogeneous, coming from a different thought process altogether. And you try to create a brand around that. If you go to Myntra is one of the best in terms of the design, what I like personally. So consistency, you will feel like from one page to another page, they have pretty standard things, and you are able to navigate to the right information. So these are some of the user testing methods what can be used for test the user experience. Moving next is then how we evaluate a design. So is my design useful? Is my design credible? Is my design desirable? Like is providing the service what customer is looking forward to? Is usability, then is customer able to find the right information? So it has three parts, like how customer is feeling, how customer is using, how customer is thinking. So this is the way, like how you go and you evaluate your design. So that is done in the pretty early phase when you are evaluating your design and creating accessibility or the consistency for your complete end-to-end experience for your end customer. So this was the theory part of it, like different concepts in UX design. Now we'll go through a couple of examples. So first one is COVID. So I took it purposefully because today, most of you are like using it, or kind of everyone is used. So this is the COVID page. And the purpose of this is to, like, you can go and you can book the vaccine for yourself. But if you look at the UI, a big banner in the bit center, Modi's these photo on the right side, some doctor, some syringe on the left side. This is fancy, nice. But what happens here is a customer is kind of lost here, where I can book a vaccine for myself. So first one is like, you have to register here. So register, if you look at the register button, register yourself, or the login page button, pretty small on the top right. So again, I am not going to criticize anyone for anything, but this banner could have been a little smaller. This visibility to register yourself could have been a little better from the visibility perspective, but it's again a personal choice. Second is you go down and you have search by pin, search by district, search by map. For that you have to allow. I'm blocking it. I don't need it. Let's say the search by district. I'm in Telangana. I type TE, Telangana. If I do little slow here, it will take me to the Ladakh because third one is L. So not so great user experience again, Telangana. Okay. Let's select here Hyderabad, press H, Hyderabad, search. So details are available, how many vaccines are available and different centers. Okay, let's select 18 and above. Okay, it's showing me what is available for 18 and above. This is 18 to 24, and this is 45 above. Pretty good, filters are awesome. Covaxin, okay, free one is available at 2 places. Okay, let me move this window this side. Okay, let's say I go to the next page. Nothing is available from 10 July to 16. Good. Now let's say I'm changing my district because we stay in Rangareddy, that is just on the outskirts of city, Hyderabad, and search it. So what happens here? The change here. My date remains the same. My date filter is still there, but all the filters I selected, age filter, vaccine filter, free, paid, all are gone. So I see a gap in the consistency here. So we talked about the consistency, accessibility, and 7 parameters like how you evaluate your design. So now let's say I have selected this week, and let's say I went to this next week, that is from 10 to 16, and I have already put up some filters. Free is not available. Let's say the paid one is available. I go and my date filter remains same, but those filters are reset. So I see a little inconsistency in this one. Again, my personal view, and it's like someone may like it or someone may not like it. So it creates some inconsistency for a user from the accessibility point of view. They have evolved this website pretty much from the first time to now. Let's say this is booked 18 and above. When I was checking it yesterday, like if you are selecting 18 and above, so it was not showing 18 at 44. So that is removed, or even that is still there. 18 to 44 only, 18 and above. How it's different, I don't know. Like 18 and above means including 45 and above too. So again, some confusion for a user, which one I should select, right? So they are trying to create some different buttons every day, trying to improve the user experience, but sometimes it's confusing too for a user. So that is my assessment here. Your registration page we talked about. Let me try logging in, and it will. There is one gap, that is I would say the backend. I'm completely vaccinated, but their backend Aadhaar is not linked, so it went to a different login. But let's say we do it here, add a new member. It will ask for the photo ID proof. You can select. So that is, I would say, is good for a new user. It's pretty clear, like what information I need to fill, and if I add, it's showing me the errors. Where are the errors? He's not showing me any error on the DL number. Okay, DL. Now it's showing me error as well. It's not in the right format. So this is something, as a product manager, you look at the design of different websites. So this is a Flipkart mobile app, and let's go through it, do a quick analysis of it. So you scroll down, you will see different categories, super deals. You go further down based on your purchase. We buy some grocery items, so it's showing us. So for men, t-shirts. So different categories are available for a user. And if you keep scrolling, you will see it's like infinity pages. Sometimes as a user, I feel it's too much of information. Do they need to provide this much on the home screen? But we will see with the other applications as well when we will review those. So I'm getting impatient here. Like I'm just scrolling fast now. I don't know what it is. Keep scrolling. And if I go further, I'm like, what the hell is this? And okay, this is the end. I realize, okay, there is an end to it. Otherwise, I was feeling like it's an infinity page for me. You see that this much of information available on the home page itself. Then on the top, they have different menus, or you go to the categories, you will see the fashion, mobile, everything smooth and clear on one page here. So usability perspective, yes, it's good. Then you can scroll left on the small icons in the top. Yeah, this portion, the categories are also listed there. We'll go to the grocery one, and I have added some items. So to look at the end-to-end experience, you will see the consistency, like the icon size. That is my UI part. Discounted items, what is the current price, 98% off, giving a clear information to the end user, like what is there for you. Deals there, bank offer and more, what are the offers from bank on the grocery items. You can buy more, save more. So pretty neat and clean it's looking like. But there might be some issues where you will feel like is this the right information, or you want to go back to the home page. So we'll go to that. So again, pretty lengthy home page, too much of information. You have a search bar, user can search, or you want to scroll through everything. I am not a guy who like it, but many of you may like it. Again, individual choice. So you go to next page again, come back. Okay, I want to buy. So place order. I will click that button. But here, if I want to go back, there are, I will say, some issues like, now I'm placing my order. Skip place an order. I can select a slot and I can continue. So, but let's say if I want to go back to the home page of Flipkart, there is no option as of now. It's like you have to press the back button 3 times here. So that was Flipkart. And now we'll go to the next one, that is my Amazon. So I try to do the similar thing for Amazon too. And one disclaimer before I start Amazon part. See, though I work with Amazon, but this presentation, whatever I'm doing is not to, demean or degrade any of the companies, or not going to talk about like Amazon is better than Flipkart or Flipkart is better than Amazon. It's just an analysis of the UX part, how it's behaving for a user, how it's looking like for a user. So Amazon didn't provide anything from the category perspective. There's a Prime button that gives you what is Prime all about, what are the benefits of Prime. That is their flagship program that is there at the top itself. At top, you will see the similar categories in Flipkart, similar in Amazon. Icons are different, but pretty same page. You scroll down, different launch pads, different deals, smartphones, baby diapers. Again, a lot of information. I personally, like I talked about during the Flipkart thing, I don't like this as a user, too much of information for me. And it's like infinity page, you keep scrolling. There is an end, but too much of information on the front page for me. I would prefer to having a separate page, and that is there, but I can go and I can find that information on that separate page rather than on the main page itself. And we will go through that grocery item things here also. There's a major difference what I found between these two, so we'll talk about that too. One thing you will see that if there's a consistency, the design, the accessibility, both are awesome. Up to 85% in the luggage, you go, you click, you will find the details. I'm not doing it because it will take again hours to dive deep into each of these, but just giving you an overview from a product manager perspective, how different things are placed. I went to Fresh, it's getting loaded. You scroll down, buy it again. These are some of the items we may have bought last time. I added few more just for this demo purpose. Buy it again. What you want to do, you have again different information. Scroll, you will see different. So I went to the buy page, go back. So there is a cross button on the Amazon app, Fresh button. So if you press that, it will take you to this cross to the main page again. And that's the big difference. If I want to abandon my cart here, I want to buy something in Amazon, you can do at one click. While in Flipkart, this back button is there, and it's like, I'm just pausing here. Again, a little forward. Yeah, so you cross this button, you are on the home page. There's a home button at the bottom, you are at the home page. So that is a little tricky when you are using Flipkart. This back button is there, and it takes you 4 click or 3 click to reach back to the home page. So that is one of the difference. Again, you see from the design consistency perspective, dal, rupees, in stock, items, pretty neat and clean UI you will see. So that is the big difference what I found. You prepare order, then it will give you a slot. This is for one day, you can select your date and you can get to the next page. So that is the Amazon, and then quickly we will go through Myntra. We are running late. Yeah, men, women, kids, pretty nice, clear, beauty, different categories at the top. Then the crazy deals. I'm just scrolling fast because we are short of time. Different brands there. So one thing what you will find here is, since Myntra is a fashion website, they have given a lot of emphasis to the pictures, the clarity, bed sheets, watches, home decor, premium beauty. This is smartwatches, this is watches, nightwear, skincare. Everything is pretty standard across. You can go through the categories. You will see the design is pretty consistent. Icons, logo, the model's picture. It's like, again, a suit has been done for them in different clothings, nice and clear. So that is one of the big difference you will see in the Myntra. I like the Myntra's design house. They are a fashion website and they kind of maintain that repo. So go back to the presentation again. Yes, so these are some examples we went through. And if we try to, put into the lens of like, usability or again, useful, desirable thing, you will see that all three websites, they fit into the criteria of a great UX. Quickly wrapping up the takeaways, UX plays a major role in the product success. So for a product manager, you need to focus on that. Empathize with the customer, put yourself in the customer's shoe, innovate for the customer, not for yourself, not for the technology. Leverage on the frameworks available like design thinking, and use the tools to test your hypothesis. AB is one of the best tool available to build something new. So with this, there again some references, some UX tools. So we'll get into the Q&A now.
All right. Thank you, Vipin. Super thankful for this nice presentation. Let's take the first question that we have on the chat. How much say does a PM have in finalizing this UX or UI design? As I understand, UX, UI engineers are not answerable to PM. So does the PM have a final say, or a UX team, or both?
Okay. Yep. So one thing is, as a PM, no one is answerable to you. Even tech is not answerable to you. And that is a difficult part of this job. You have like different verticals. You have tech, you have design, you have business, and you work without any authority. But how the UX would be looking like is the responsibility of product manager. It may vary from organization to organization, but product success lies with the product manager. So UX also lies with the product manager. At least wherever I have worked, I have seen the color choice may lie with a UX designer. Your company may have pretty standard library, like Amazon has a library. You have to go with that library. Pretty similar to that Flipkart may have, or Myntra may have a library of icons, different buttons, font size to be used, color to be used. But how the user would be navigating from one page to another page, the user journey part, the user experience part, it lies with the product manager, not with the UX designer part.
Got it. Understand. And I completely agree with this viewpoint. What I have learned in the product management is the ability to lead a particular product without authority or influencing without authority will play a big role. The way I usually do it is, you have better understanding of your product. You are passionate about the product. Because if you're not passionate about the product, no one else will be. So
right.
You can make and break a product. PM can make a difference between a good product versus a great product. Remember that, because other stakeholders of the roles are busy building their pieces of the product. But as a PM, you need to take that both the views from the bird's eye view as well as on the ground reality and make the decisions. And people will eventually respect you as and when you start making good decisions. And that's how you will earn the trust. That's how you will go ahead and start influencing without authority. So that's the formula that I've been using. Hopefully you can find some nuggets from it. We have another question. As an entry-level product manager, what level of familiarity or expertise is required in UX? Knowledge and vision is sufficient, or experience of making UX from scratch is required?
I would say that, there's no end to the knowledge part. That is true, right? So as a product manager, your focus should be on understanding the customer. You have to empathize with the customer and creating that customer journey, understanding the customer pain point. So that is one. Now coming to the tools part, right? Hands-on to the Balsamiq or Adobe's Photoshop or some other tool, it is something, you can do as a part of your learning. So I would say getting into that mindset, getting into a zone where you can empathize with the customer, where you can get insights about customer, where you can put yourself into the customer who is more important than getting hands-on to the tools. Because if you go and Google some websites, maybe Udemy or something, tools are easy to learn. So understanding the user persona, the challenges is, I would say, the bigger thing for a product manager rather than focusing on learning the different tools. Because one tool what is used in one company and may or may not be used by the other company. So that tool knowledge is very subjective one. Viraj, you want to add something on it?
No, I agree with you. I think you opened up the CoWIN website unless you would like people to ask questions on that.
Okay.
Just my viewpoint on that CoWIN example. What lessons that we learned from Vipin, they are valuable. At the same time, I would recommend think about the product as not only the backend. So to make CoWIN work, there are multiple things or systems that they have built in the backend. And so don't try to form your opinion only based upon UX, but also there's a complexity involved in the backend. So you need to find a balance between both. I would rate them good on the backend piece. That's what I have seen. And that's why we are in a position to start criticizing.
Right. No, I agree. This is what I said, that, there are two parts of it. One is the front end, second is the back end. Obviously, they have a lot of data. How they are presenting is something important to a user, right? They have data. That resetting the filter, it might be something what I'm feeling. Another user might not feel the same. But what I feel that it is little inconsistent. But building such a a large scale platform that can help 130 million users is challenge. Not 130, 1.3 billion users, right?
Yeah. We have another question. How do we analyze user data? What are the tools to analyze data?
When you say the user data, what it mean exactly? Like, are you looking for different matrices? What you are trying to measure when customer is using, or like for websites, you have the Google Analytics. You can go and try to see the churn rate, and then how the from like one page to another page, what was the customer journey when it got dropped off, so what is the churn rate. So if that, then Google Analytics is one of the tool. But if you are looking for some other thing, I'm not pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hope it answers the question, or you can type in the follow-up question. We have another question from Manjiri. In moderated versus unmoderated testing,
yep,
do we not consider the chances and effects of bias in
yes, and that's the reason, like, in the moderated one, your user may be biased with the opinion, or you are helping user to navigate through the website or the web page or the app. So your user may be biased with that. But when you are forming those questions as a product manager, your responsibility would be to create question in such a way that user is not biased with your views. Your job is to help them navigate, not give them something about the product like that is going to bias their opinion about the usability part, or the how this button is behaving part, and all these things. So while forming your questions, you have to be a little careful with that.
All right. I think we don't have any more questions. So we already are beyond the time limit. So thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, follow-up questions for Vipin, feel free to send at hello@mentormegood.com. Again, for those maybe who joined late, we are here to help you out. I am one of the coaches on the platform. We have two options. Either you can do say one-on-one coaching or one-on-one meetings, or you can go ahead and do a boot camp. We are seeing candidates liking the bootcamp option, where they want to do end-to-end, starting from, say, your resume review to building the right resume, picking the right projects to present, and doing some mock interview preparation, plus learning various skills as a PM. So feel free to check it out, mentormegood.com. And then with this, I think we can conclude the session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks for taking your time and listening to my experience. Hope it helps you. And thanks, Viraj, for setting it up.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.